Welcome back, friends, to mile marker 31. Out here on the endless highways of America, not every story comes from the dispatch board or the truck stop diner. Some roads hold secrets, shadows that stretch beyond the natural world. Tonight's story takes us down into the desert highways of New Mexico, through the infamous town of Roswell, a place whispered about since 1947, when something fell from the skies and was never fully explained. This isn't just another UFO story. This is a trucker's confession, a man who swore he'd never talk about what happened on Highway 185 until now. So buckle up, settle in, and ride with me into the desert night. If you like stories like this, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell, and join us for more nights out on the road, where reality and the unknown cross paths.
Chapter 1. The long haul into the desert. I was running a long haul from Houston up into Colorado. Nothing unusual, just another late-night grind across the Southwest. I'd already cleared Lubbock, and by the time I rolled north out of Carlsbad, the desert had swallowed the horizon. That stretch of the US 285, it feels endless. The kind of road where you don't see another pair of headlights for 30 minutes straight. Just blacktop, moonlight, and the hum of your diesel engine eating mile after mile. The desert at night, it's different. The air smells dry, sharp, like hot sand cooling off under the stars. You roll down the window and it cuts against your face, reminding you just how empty this land really is. Sagebrush, barbed wire fences, silhouettes of distant mesas. Out here, you're a speck of dust hauling steel through eternity. My Kenworth's dash lights glowed a dull green, the CB silent, Sirius radio murmuring low in the background. I had a thermos of gas station coffee sitting in the Q folder, barely warm anymore. On nights like that, coffee's more of a ritual than a fix. You sip it just to remind yourself you're still alive, still moving. As I crossed the county line into Chaves County, the road signs started pointing toward Roswell. That name alone hits different when you're behind the wheel in the dead of night. You think of that crash in '47, the newspapers, the cover-ups. Folks laugh about aliens in the daylight, but in the desert darkness, under a sky so full of stars you can't count them, those stories stop being funny. I caught myself checking the mirrors more often, half expecting to see something back there, but all I saw was the steady beam of my taillights cutting across the black. No cars, no troopers, no nothing, only me, a 40-ton rig, and the desert. And yet, there was this heaviness in the air. Not the usual tiredness that creeps in after a 10-hour shift. This was something else. The kind of feeling that makes the hair on your arm stand up, like you've just stepped into a place where you don't belong. I gripped the wheel tighter, told myself I was just tired. But deep down, I already knew. That road was leading me into something I wasn't ready for. Chapter 2. The strange lights ahead. The first time I noticed them, I thought it was just a plane. Out here in New Mexico, the skies are busy. Holloman Air Force Base isn't far, and jets cut across these skies all the time. But the way these lights moved, it wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. I was cruising steady, maybe 65, my high beams stretching out over the asphalt, when something flickered against the stars. At first just one white light, then two, dancing together above the desert like fireflies. Only fireflies don't move at supersonic speed, and they sure as hell don't stop dead in the air. I slowed my rig, leaning forward over the wheel, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. These lights weren't blinking like aircraft navigation beacons. They glowed solid, bright, like spheres of white fire. They'd dart forward, vanish, and reappear higher, farther, then closer again, like they were playing some kind of game with each other. My first thought? Fatigue. I'd been rolling long hours. Maybe it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. Desert heat waves at night, a reflection from my own headlights bouncing off a road sign. I told myself all of that, but deep down, I knew better. The CB which had been dead silent for miles, suddenly cracked with static, a burst so sharp it made me flinch. I grabbed the mic, thumbed the button, asked if anyone else had eyes on traffic near Roswell. Nothing but static replied. Then, like someone twisted the dial, the static cut clean, and the desert was silent again. No other voices, just me. The lights grew brighter. One dropped low, skimming just above the horizon line, almost level with the road ahead. My heart thumped harder. I eased off the throttle, watching as it paced me. Every mile I drove, it stayed with me just out ahead. It wasn't drifting. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. I told myself it had to be a chopper. Border Patrol, maybe. But choppers make noise. And out here with the windows cracked, you can hear a single engine from miles away. There was nothing. Not a hum, not a blade, not even the faint whoosh of air displacement. Just light, that eerie, hovering glow. The desert around me seemed darker than before, as if the land itself had pulled back into shadow. My headlights looked weak against the blacktop, my dashboard lights dimmer, like something was draining the energy right out of the rig. I tightened my grip on the wheel, knuckles going white. Somewhere ahead, that light flickered, split into two, then three, like they were multiplying or calling each other in. And in that moment, I felt it deep in my gut. Whatever was out there in the desert wasn't random. It knew I was here, and it wanted me to know it too. Chapter 3. Truck stop conversations. By the time I saw the glow of a truck stop sign, I was more than ready to pull over. My eyes felt raw from staring into that black desert, and the unease gnawed at my chest like acid. The sign read Alsop's Travel Center, Roswell, NM. Nothing fancy, just a squat building with fluorescent lights buzzing over the lot, a row of dusty pickups parked out front, and a few 18-wheelers idling in the back. I rolled in slow, parked near the far end where the sodium lights barely reached, killed the engine, and for a moment just sat there, listening to the tick of cooling metal. After miles of emptiness, the sound of other trucks around me was almost comforting, like I'd found proof I wasn't alone on this stretch of earth. Inside, the air smelled like fried burritos, burnt coffee, and disinfectant. A TV mounted in the corner hummed with late-night local news. Nobody was really watching. A few drivers nursed cups of coffee at the counter, their ball caps pulled low, jackets stained with diesel and sweat. I ordered a refill, slid into a booth, and kept quiet at first. But the thing about truck stops is, you don't need to ask. Conversations drift to you, whether you want them or not. Two older drivers at the counter were talking low, just enough for me to catch bits. Saw him again last week, out past mile marker 70, bright as day, and then PFF to gone. Whole rig stalled out, couldn't get her to start for 10 minutes. The other shook his head. Don't mess with that stretch. You know damn well, it ain't right. Been happening since before I started driving. Some folks don't come back. I froze with my coffee halfway to my lips. The words slid into my brain like cold steel. Some folks don't come back. I tried to play it cool, but my curiosity got the better of me. Excuse me, I said, leaning slightly toward them. You guys talking about lights out on 285? Both men went quiet, staring at me like I just walked into a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. Finally, the taller one spoke, his voice gravelly. You see 'em tonight? I hesitated, lied. Maybe. Could have been planes. He gave a humorless chuckle. Ain't no plane stops dead in the air, son. The other one leaned closer. You keep your CB on? Sometimes you'll hear things. Voices that don't belong to no driver. Don't answer back if you do. I felt a chill crawl across my shoulders. Voices? I asked, keeping my tone casual, though my palms were sweating. He didn't blink. They call you by name sometimes. Don't ask me how they know it. Just don't answer. The diner felt smaller suddenly, the buzzing lights overhead louder, like the whole place was pressing in. I finished my coffee, paid my tab, and walked back out into the desert night. The lot was quieter now. A few rigs idling, the glow of cigarettes by the fuel pumps. Above, the sky stretched black and endless, But when I looked out toward the highway, I swore I saw a faint white shimmer, waiting for me. Chapter 4. The Desert Road Encounter. I eased my rig back onto 285, the night swallowing me again. The glow of the truck stop faded fast in the mirrors until it was just me, the asphalt, and that endless desert horizon. For a while, I tried convincing myself the stop had cleared my head. Just stories, trucker talk, fueled by too much caffeine and too many lonely miles. But 20 minutes later, that fragile comfort shattered. The CB hissed. Not a voice this time, not yet. Just a long, steady crackle, like someone pressing the mic but never speaking. The sound filled the cab, crawling under my skin. I turned the volume down, and the static grew louder. Then came the lights. Out of nowhere, the sky lit up ahead of me. Not headlights, not aircraft strobes, but a sphere of white fire descending out of the stars. It glowed brighter than the moon, hanging just above the highway, like it was waiting. The hair on my arms stood up. My gauges began to twitch. The oil pressure needle jerked. The RPMs fluttered, though my foot was steady on the throttle. My headlights flickered, dimmed, then flared back to life. And then, silence. Not quiet. Silence. The kind that makes you realize the world itself has sound, wind, tires, engine hum, and when it's gone, your brain scrambles to make sense of it. My Kenworth's engine cut out, dead weight at 70,000 pounds, coasting down blacktop with no power steering. I gritted my teeth, wrestling the wheel, the rig shuddering as if the air itself had thickened around it. The dash lights flickered like dying candles. The GPS screen went black. In the mirrors, something moved fast. A shimmer, a streak of light, weaving behind me and darting up alongside the trailer. My gut clenched as the whole rig rocked, not from wind, not from road, but from pressure. Like something unseen had brushed against it. The CB burst alive again, a voice this time. Metallic, hollow, distorted, but clear enough to make my blood run cold. "Driver, we see you." I froze, staring at the mic. The voice came again, sharper, almost inside my head. "Driver," by name. And then it said my name, my real name. I never touched that mic. My hands were welded to the wheel, my chest pounding so hard it felt like it would crack. The lights swarmed, one in front, one above, one pacing me to the left. They weren't random anymore. They had me boxed in, herding me like cattle on the dark highway. I slammed the hazard lights, pumping the brakes, but nothing responded right. My rig groaned, systems fighting to stay alive, as though something was sucking the energy straight out of it. And then, just as sudden as it began, the engine roared back to life. The gauges steadied, the dash glowed bright again. But the lights didn't leave. They drifted back, hovering, watching, like they wanted me to know this was only the beginning. Chapter 5, A Stranger on the CB. I kept the CB volume low after that, but it didn't matter. The voice came through, whether I touched the dial or not. At first, just static whispers that rose and fell with the hum of my tires on the blacktop. Then words. Real words. "Driver, alone?" I snapped my head toward the radio. My hands tightened on the wheel so hard the leather creaked. I'd been rolling solo for years, but hearing it said like that, it felt like a sentence, not a fact. I grabbed the mic, thumbed the button. My voice cracked. "Breaker 19, anybody copy? This is southbound, heading toward Roswell. I'm picking up some strange chatter. Nothing. No return. Not even a courtesy. Got you. Just silence." Until the static bled back in, slow and thick, crawling through the speakers like smoke. "Don't call them," the voice hissed. "Only us." I dropped the mic like it burned. My mouth went dry. I'd heard my share of pranksters on the road. Kids with bootleg CBs, bored drivers running late-night games. But this wasn't that. This voice had weight to it, echoing like it was bouncing through my skull, not the speaker. It said my name again, clear, precise, like someone I knew, but twisted metallic, distorted through a machine. I slammed the radio off, dead quiet. For a heartbeat, I almost felt relief. Then the voice whispered again, with the radio off. I swear it came from inside the cab, from the dark space just behind the sleeper curtain. Don't turn away. I jerked my eyes to the mirrors. Empty road behind me. No headlights. Nothing but the faint glow of desert stars. I hit the accelerator hard, the diesel roaring back, every gear screaming as I tried to outrun the night itself. But the faster I went, the more the air inside the cab thickened, pressing against my chest like an invisible hand. "Stay awake," the voice warned. "We're not finished." That's when I saw it. A faint shimmer in the passenger seat, like heat waves rising off asphalt. A shape that wasn't a shape, barely visible. But I knew damn well something was there. I forced my eyes forward, hands trembling on the wheel. My heart was a jackhammer in my throat. I didn't dare look again. I just drove, driven harder than I ever had before. Because if I looked, I was afraid I wouldn't like what I saw sitting next to me. Chapter 6. The abandoned car. I must have pushed another 40 miles north before I saw it. Up ahead on the shoulder, my headlights caught the glint of chrome. A sedan, just sitting there with its hazard lights still blinking. A kind of pulsing orange that looks almost alive in the dark. I slowed down, easing the rig into the right lane. Truckers don't pass a stranded motorist without at least checking. It's an unspoken rule out here. But something about this car, something was off. Both front doors were wide open, headlights on, engines still running. Like whoever was inside had stepped out mid-sentence and never came back. I pulled the Kenworth onto the shoulder, 100 feet back, hazards flashing. My boots hit the gravel with a crunch, desert wind rushing past my ears. The night smelled of hot rubber and dust. As I walked closer, the beam from my maglite swept over the interior. 2 cell phones sat on the center console, a woman's purse in the passenger seat, the driver's door still swinging gently, creaking in the breeze. But no people, no footprints leading away from the vehicle. What there was, though, sent a chill up my spine. Burn marks, perfect circles scorched into the asphalt around the car. Not skid marks, not oil stains, just blackened rings in the pavement, as if something white-hot had pressed down from above. I crouched, running my fingers across one. The tar was bubbled, warped, still warm. And then I noticed something else. On the roof of the car, faint, glowing smears. Handprints, small, too small to be human. Each one left behind a faint luminescence, as if the marks themselves were alive, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the flashlight. Behind me, the CB in my rig screeched to life, even though I'd switched it off hours ago. Static tore through the night, louder than my own breathing. Then came the voice again. "You see them." It wasn't a question. "You see what's left." My gut screamed at me to run, to jump back in the cab and hammer the throttle. But my legs locked. My eyes stayed glued to that car, that impossible glow. Somewhere out in the desert, just beyond the reach of my flashlight, I swear I heard movement. Not coyotes, not wind, something heavier, slower, deliberate. I backed away, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. By the time I climbed back into the cab, my hands shook so bad, I fumbled the ignition twice. The rig finally roared awake. Headlights swept over that empty car one last time as I pulled back onto the blacktop. The doors were still open, the hazard still blinking, and those handprints still glowing, like they were watching me leave. Chapter 7. Close encounter. The highway stretched ahead, empty as a vein through the desert. No taillights, no oncoming beams, just my rig grinding through the black silence. But they were back. At first, just one, a glow hovering above the horizon, white and steady, not flickering like stars. Then another, and another, until 3 of them glided into formation, triangulating around me like predators circling prey. My chest tightened. I'd seen storms, flash floods, even tornado funnels in my years on the road, but nothing made me feel small like this. Nothing made me feel so chosen. The first light dropped low, racing along the asphalt just ahead of my truck, moving smooth as silk, no wheels, no sound. The second drifted to my left, casting pale light across the desert brush. The third hung directly above the cab, so bright I could see the shadow of my own rig stretching across the highway like a ghost. The air inside the cab grew heavy, pressing down like I was driving into a storm front. My ears popped. The steering wheel felt sluggish, like every turn was pushing through syrup. Then it started. The gauges twitched again, but worse this time. The fuel meter spun wildly. The RPM needle slammed back and forth. The dash lights pulsed in rhythm with the hovering orbs outside. My headlights dimmed until the highway vanished, then blazed back, searing my eyes. I swore under my breath, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. Not tonight. Not like this. And then the sound stopped. No engine, no tires on pavement, no wind, just silence. Thick, suffocating, absolute. I looked out the windshield and the world seemed wrong. The desert wasn't black anymore. It was white, glowing faintly like snow under a full moon. The road itself shimmered, edges rippling as though the asphalt had turned liquid. I tried to blink it away, but when I opened my eyes, the lights were closer, hovering just feet from the windshield, so bright I had to shield my face. But at the same time, I couldn't look away. Shapes flickered inside them, silhouettes moving impossibly fast, stretching and collapsing like shadows caught in water. I couldn't breathe. My chest heaved, but no air filled my lungs. My whole body tingled, pins and needles racing through every nerve. Time itself felt fractured, seconds stretching into eternity. And then I felt it. Not heard, not seen, but felt. Something probing at my thoughts, sliding through my memories like fingers rifling through a drawer. Images of my past flashed. My wife back in Texas, my son learning to ride his bike, my first rig on my first long haul. All of it playing out in bursts of light inside my skull. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The light swelled, engulfing the cab, burning so bright it erased the world around me. And just before everything went white, the voice returned. Inside my head this time. You belong to the road. Now, you belong to us. Chapter 8. Missing time. When my eyes opened, the first thing I noticed was the sound. The hum of my engine. The steady thrum of rubber on asphalt. The world was normal again. Too normal. I gripped the wheel, blinking hard, trying to focus. My dash clock read 3:42 a. The last I remembered, it had been just after 1 o'clock, 2.5 hours gone. I glanced at the GPS. I was 40 miles farther north than I should have been. No memory of driving, no memory of shifting gears, of taking exits, of passing a single mile marker. It was like the highway itself had swallowed time and spit me out down the line. The air in the cab felt wrong, heavy with a smell I couldn't place, sharp, metallic, like burnt ozone. I ran a hand across the seat beside me. The fabric was damp, cold, though I'd kept the windows up tight. And that's when I saw them. Handprints on the inside of the passenger window. They weren't smeared like greasy fingerprints. They glowed, faint, pale green outlines, smaller than a child's hand, 5 perfect fingers pressed against the glass. They pulsed with a rhythm, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. My throat went dry. I rubbed at them with my sleeve, desperate to wipe them away. But no matter how hard I scrubbed, they didn't fade. They just kept glowing, like the glass itself had absorbed the touch. I pulled the rig onto the shoulder, heart racing, hands trembling as I stepped out into the night. The desert was dead silent. No wind, no coyotes. Just me and the hiss of my cooling brakes. I circled the truck with my flashlight, and that's when my stomach dropped. On the trailer doors, more prints. Dozens of them, small glowing hand marks scattered across the metal, some high, some low, like a crowd had swarmed it. The shapes shimmered faintly in the dark, each one pulsing with the same unnatural light. And then I noticed something else. On the back bumper, etched into the dust and grime, a single word, return, not painted, not scratched, burned into the metal itself, the letters blackened as if branded with fire. I staggered back, shaking my head, muttering to myself, No, this isn't real. This isn't. But the trailer loomed behind me, silent, glowing with those prints like a warning or a promise. My hands were ice cold as I climbed back into the cab. I slammed the locks shut, checked them twice, even though deep down I knew that wouldn't matter, because whatever had ridden with me in that missing time didn't need doors. And I had a sinking feeling they weren't finished with me yet. Chapter 9, The Secret in Roswell. By the time I rolled back into Roswell, the sky was beginning to pale. Dawn hadn't broken yet, but the first gray light was peeling across the desert horizon. I hadn't slept. My hands still shook on the wheel, nerves frayed raw. I pulled into the same truck stop as before, parking under a dead sodium light. It buzzed like an angry hornet. My rig still bore the evidence, glowing handprints faint on the trailer, shimmering like they refused to let go. Inside, the diner smelled of bacon grease and burnt coffee. A handful of drivers sat at the counter, their faces worn, eyes hollow from miles of empty road. Nobody looked up when I walked in, but one man did. He was old, 70s at least, gray beard, denim jacket that had seen decades of road dust. He sat in the corner booth with a black coffee and a notebook spread open in front of him, its pages full of messy sketches and strange symbols. "You saw them," he said without looking up. I froze. "What?" Now he raised his eyes, steel gray, sharp as broken glass. "Don't play dumb. I can see it on you. The way your hands shake, the way you keep looking at the door like you're expecting them to follow you in." My chest tightened. I slid into the booth across from him before I could talk myself out of it. I don't even know what I saw." He gave a bitter chuckle. "That's how it starts." I told him about the lights, the dead engine, the voices on the CB, the abandoned car with glowing handprints, and the missing hours. When I finished, he just nodded, like I'd confirmed something he already knew. "Back in '47, he said, his voice low. "It wasn't just a weather balloon. The military covered that up because they had no choice. Pieces of something came down, not from here. Folks in town know it, even if they won't admit it out loud. Since then, this stretch of road's been cursed." He leaned closer, his voice almost a whisper. "Drivers vanish out there. Whole rigs disappear without a trace. Others come back, but they're never the same. Eyes glazed, minds gone, like they left part of themselves out in that desert. And some come back with marks, burned into the skin, like brands." I swallowed hard, the taste of stale coffee bitter on my tongue. "Why me? Why now?" He shrugged. "They take who they want. Maybe you caught their attention. Maybe you've been on their list for years, and tonight just happened to be your turn." His eyes dropped to my hands gripping the edge of the table. "The question is, are you going to keep driving this road?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. The silence between us was thick, the hum of the diner lights buzzing in my ears. Finally, he leaned back, his gaze drifting to the window, out toward the endless desert. "They don't like to let go. You can change routes. Avoid this stretch. But once they've touched you, you'll see them again. Doesn't matter if you're in Roswell, Denver, or Houston. They'll find you." His words landed like gravel in my chest. And for the first time in 25 years behind the wheel, I felt something I'd never felt on the road. Not loneliness, not exhaustion, but dread. Chapter 10. Never the same road again. I left Roswell with the dawn at my back, but the night never really left me. The old man's words echoed in my head, as steady as the hum of my engine. "They don't like to let go." I thought maybe distance would wash the fear away. Once I got out of Chaves County, out of that desert stretch where the lights seemed to own the sky, I'd start to feel normal again, but normal never came back. Every mile I put between me and Roswell just twisted the knife deeper. My mirrors felt alive. I'd catch glimpses of movement in them, quick flashes of white orbs darting at the corner of my vision, gone the second I turned to look. Sometimes, when the CB was quiet, I swore I heard that metallic whisper bleeding in under the static, just enough syllables to curl my stomach and remind me they still knew my name. I finished that haul, dropped my trailer in Denver, but I couldn't shake the weight pressing down on my chest. When I climbed down from the cab, My knees buckled like I'd been carrying something on my shoulders all night. Not freight, not fatigue, something else. Something invisible that had hitched a ride with me. When I finally parked at home in Houston, I thought I could scrub the memory away. I washed the Kenworth twice, inside and out, but no amount of soap erased those faint glowing handprints. At night, under the right light, they came back, pale green, pulsing like veins under skin. My wife noticed the change before I admitted it to myself. She said I'd started waking up in the middle of the night, gasping like I was drowning. Said I'd stand at the window for hours, staring at the sky, waiting for something I couldn't name. I tried new routes, East Coast runs, Midwest loads. I stayed away from New Mexico, swore I'd never touch Highway 285 again. But even out in Georgia, in Tennessee, in the rolling hills of Kentucky, there were nights I saw them. Tiny orbs gliding just above the tree line, pacing me like wolves shadowing a herd. The road had always been my freedom. Behind the wheel, I could outrun everything. Bills, arguments, bad luck. But now, every highway feels like a leash. I can't tell where they end and where they begin. And the worst part? Sometimes, I feel them inside the cab with me. Not visible, not physical, just the weight of another presence. The seatbelt buckle tugging, like someone invisible shifting in the passenger seat. The faint smell of ozone creeping in, even with the vents closed. I used to love the silence of night halls. Now, silence terrifies me. Because silence is when they come back. So I keep rolling, because stopping feels worse. I don't tell my dispatcher what I've seen. Don't tell other drivers. Most wouldn't believe me. The ones who might, they already know. They've seen things too. You can tell by the way they look at you across a diner table. Eyes hollow, coffee untouched. If you ever find yourself on that stretch outside Roswell, and the desert feels too quiet, too still, keep your eyes on the road and don't look at the sky. If the CB starts calling you by name, don't answer. And if you see an abandoned car on the shoulder, hazards blinking, doors open, keep driving. Because once they notice you, they never forget. I'm not the same driver I was before that night. Hell, I'm not the same man. And every time I fire up the engine, I know, somewhere out there, just beyond the reach of my headlights, they're waiting.
And that's the story of a long haul through Roswell, a town where the desert swallows time, and the sky swallows men. Some truckers say it's just stories, desert myths and campfire lies. But I know better. I saw the lights, I heard the voice, and I'll never be the same. If you've ever found yourself alone on a dark highway, wondering if the stars above are watching, maybe now you know the answer. Out here on mile marker 31, the road is never just asphalt and yellow lines. It's a place where reality bends, where fear rides shotgun, and where every story is a confession. If you felt that chill tonight, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next run. Because there are more stories out here, waiting in the shadows of the highway. Until then, keep your eyes on the road, and whatever you do, don't look too long at the sky.